Well, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, and welcome to Hathor Hosts Season 2, baby. I can't believe it. Yes, we're here. We're back, and we're back for a little while, which is absolutely fantastic. If this is your first time on this channel and you're sort of browsing the internet and you think, hang on a minute, didn't I see this woman a year ago sitting in her lounge making videos? You're right. Guess what? We're still here. It's like nothing's changed except our graphics and our kick-ass new song. Welcome, everyone. I am so delighted to be back. Please, if you like what you see here, please remember to hit the subscribe button. And I would just love that. We can grow this community and be part of this fantastic, fantastic family together. Tonight, I am so thrilled to welcome this guest. You know, sometimes you meet somebody and you just think, that's good people there, right there. Well, that was my experience from the very, very first time we met one another. And ever since then, we've been as thick as. I'll try that again. You see, I haven't used my teeth in a year. Well, not a year, 6 months, I think. We were as thick as thieves. There we go. Drama school. And we have remained thus. We have been a tight gang of good friends, myself, Jacqueline, Cliff, and Peter, and particularly Peter and I. He makes me laugh. He's a fantastic actor, and I'm so excited to delve a little bit deeper into his career and his life this evening. So please put your hands together for a rousing welcome for the one, the only, the fabulous Peter Williams. Woo!
Ta-da!
Hello. Oh, ta-da! You just like
that's
around.
what you say, isn't it? That's what you say. That's what you say. Hello, everyone. Hello.
Oh,
Good to be
welcome
here.
to the show. It's so good to have you. Many people will not know this, but I have been trying to get Peter on the show for a very, very long time. So I am so delighted that you've decided to come back and share some of your incredible stories with everyone and with me.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. Just wind me up, point me in the right direction, and let me loose.
Well, on that note, let's do just that. Yeah. So you were born in Kingston, Jamaica.
Yeah.
Which doesn't sound good when I say it.
That is, hey, that's a start, a middle, and an end all in itself right there. Kingston, Jamaica is just as you imagine it to be. I think nobody has not heard of that place. It is a big spot on the map. It is a vortex of energy, and it is the place that spawned me. Absolutely, born there. We won't say the year, though. Don't say the year.
No.
Although everybody probably knows.
But ghouls, we never ever age anyway. So
that's right.
You know.
That's right.
So tell me a little bit about your childhood, because your descriptions of your childhood home in the parish of St. Catherine, the sights, the smells, I mean, you've always had me enthralled when we've talked. Was your childhood pretty idyllic?
I feel like I should be lying prone on a therapist's couch. It all began when? My childhood, yes, it was, I would say idyllic. I like to say, if you're familiar with Jamaican music, my life spans the entire length of the trajectory of Jamaican music. I was born before Jamaica was independent. We were a British colony in Jamaica. We all were born with British passports. We used pounds, shillings, and pence. Yeah. We could wax lyrical about farthings and threepences and crowns and half crowns. And the Queen of England was on our money. That was the beginning. Independence happened to Jamaica in 1962. And I would have been, all right, well, we're going into the depths of my age. Now everybody can do math. They're all science fiction fans here. They're all mathematicians. I was 5 years old when Jamaica became independent. So I have vague memories of the excitement that surrounded that particular time in my country. And the music was just, it was moving. It was a thing called ska at the time. Yes, and it was high energy and easy to dance to. Not that I was going to dances at age 5, but I since learned, and it's stuck with me my whole life.
So I know that music is a massive passion of yours, and your mum was a teacher and your dad a doctor, surgeon, and you have a brother who's also ended up in the entertainment industry. So I wonder, where did those artistic influences come from?
It's funny, you would think we would have become musicians like almost everyone else in Jamaica. But the artistic influence, I'm going to have to credit the society at large, and specifically my grandmother, who could do anything. My grandmother could, well, first of all, she was herself a music fan. I have images of her doing a little swaying motions, singing her favorite songs, all of which I've decided to delve into the music itself and find.
Mhm.
So I have them in a playlist, grandma's playlist. And she was a seamstress. She could sew clothing for us. She could cook naturally. Um, she sang, not
Amazing.
professionally, but she sang to herself, and I think, and she made sure that she took us to pantomimes.
Yes.
Pantomime is a huge thing in Jamaica, or was at the
Now,
time anyway.
when I read that, I was so shocked because when I lived in America, I have, for any of the Americans watching, pantomime is such a British thing. I mean, I got to be honest, I've lived in Britain for 20 years and I still don't get it. I was in
Hey,
one and I don't get it. But I have many American friends. I have one who moved to London and I took her to a pantomime and she just sat there at interval in kind of stony silence and went, I don't get it.
okay,
Like,
all right.
so
Well, look at it
what
this
was
way.
your reaction?
Look at it this way. Before there was Bob Marley, we had a cultural icon by the name of Louise Bennett. Louise Bennett popularized the use of Jamaican dialect. We know it as patois,
Yes.
and she brought it into the mainstream. Pantomime was one of her vehicles, and she starred in many of the early pantomimes, along with a man by the name of Ranny Williams. No relation to me, but Ranny was a comedian par excellence. Ranny and Miss Lou were a team. And if they were the leads in the pantomime, we were there.
Mhm.
These people have been lionized over the decades in Jamaica, Jamaican folklore, Jamaican history, and I was actually there in the theater, a fantastic colonial era theater by the name of Ward Theater. Um, the history is online for anyone who wants to Google it. It's a beautiful theater, has been restored to its former glory,
Oh,
and it's
fabulous.
downtown Kingston, and it was a pilgrimage for people of my generation.
Yeah. So the arts were there. There was a healthy, with both parents being bright and, working in educational fields, if you like, one a teacher, one a doctor and a surgeon. There must have been this, which is in you, this kind of inquisitive, this desire to know more.
Here's a
Was that
funny thing. Here's
obviously
a funny
encouraged?
thing. Let me just tell you, both my parents, of course, were Jamaicans, but they did not know each other in Jamaica. They
Oh,
they met in New York City.
okay.
They met in New York City, fell in love in New York City, and then announced their love and their marriage to their parents when they returned home.
Oh,
So it was a case of Jamaicans meeting in the diaspora
how
and and
extraordinary.
and returning home to participate in nation building,
Yeah,
which is the a reason for living, a raison d'etre at the time. You
yeah.
go abroad, you get your qualifications, and you come home and you build a nation. That is usually how it works.
Hmm.
Um, the trials and tribulations of nation building ensued, and a lot of
Yes.
us went our own ways. But we'll get
Well,
to that.
that's,
We'll get to
I was
that. We're
just going
still
to
in this.
say,
Yeah.
well, at what point what prompted the family to emigrate to Canada? What was the reason for going? I think,
We're all nicely compartmentalized here. I mentioned independence in 1962. All
look
right.
at you
We're
with
going
your
to
mum coming up
looks
on
like
the screen.
looks like we're leaping forward a decade and a half here.
Yeah.
But in 1972, 10 years on from independence, Jamaica elected a prime minister who was had his own international presence at the time, Michael Manley. He
Mm.
was a what we know now to be a left-wing socialist leaning prime minister, extremely charismatic man. If my mother had not been in love with my father, she might have gone after him, uh,
Oh.
along with most of the women in that country at the time. He was a charming fella, deadly good looking, the best friend of Pierre Trudeau, which is my first mention of my new home, Canada.
Yes.
And the socialist experiment in the country shook the tree and shook loose demons and social waves, and set pathways in motion that
Yeah.
reverberate to this day. Um, so that was 1972. My family did not leave Jamaica until 1978, by
Okay.
which time my brother and I had already been sent away to England to
Mm-hmm.
complete our high school.
Ah, okay.
I
So,
was almost finished. So I was an adult. I was a young adult by the time I
yeah.
left.
Okay.
1975. Summer of 75. I'll never forget it. Um,
And
yes.
I was
Go
going to say,
ahead.
so you graduate high school and you end up going to Nottingham University, which was such a shock. Um, Here we have you, because not only do you go to Nottingham University, but you end up reading geography and archaeology,
hmm
and you get your BA. So, what prompted you, A, to study that, and B, to go to Nottingham?
Okay, I should have probably warned those two guys in the photograph with me that I was going to use that photo, because
It's a
I am
great photo.
I'm still in touch with them. Yes. Oh boy, we're jumping around a little bit, but that's good. It's good. I'll just pick up in 1975, and 1975 I finished my, what we call in England and the British system, A levels, the final year of high school.
Right.
Finished. Wait a second. I land in England in a boarding school, and we all know what boarding schools are like through
Hmm.
our reading and through, you know, reading David Niven, The Moon's a Balloon, and things like that. In fact, David
Yeah.
Niven went to my old school.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So I wound up doing my final year of high school in 1 year, and it's really a 2 year course.
Okay.
So I knew instantly I wasn't going to get the grades to go to Oxford or Cambridge.
Hmm.
And I would have to go to university and read something that I was very good at. I was good at geography, so I picked geography. Archaeology was something that had always intrigued me because I had a subscription to National Geographic, and there were always articles on archaeological uh,
Yeah.
matter in National Geographic. So I picked something that I was likely to get accepted to university for. Geography, archaeology was it. And lo and behold, I got an acceptance from Nottingham University, which I accepted. Um, because they had a beautiful campus. They had a lovely
Hmm.
campus and a great geography department. Uh, the archaeology, not quite so much, but the combination was good for me.
Yeah.
I you remember, this is now 1976 in
Yeah.
England. We are experiencing punk rock, a reggae explosion to which we will return throughout the course of this interview.
Excellent.
A reggae explosion, Margaret Thatcher,
Yeah.
race riots, uh, the beginnings of Elvis Costello's career.
Yeah.
All kinds of things were happening in the UK at that time, and my mind was getting blown. So, and my horizons were expanding,
Hmm.
and my grades were suffering. But I was learning so much. And it was during this period that I got introduced to the continent as well. So,
Right.
Europe and the UK, and my world had expanded beyond being just a Jamaican boy in a boarding school, I was
Mhm.
now a citizen of the world.
So you then graduate university, and at some point you make it back to Canada. And this is where you stumble into acting. And I say stumble because, as so often with people who become really great actors, it's very often a nudge from a family member or someone else going, "Oh, you should try that." And that was sort of the case with you. Your brother saw an advertisement in a newspaper looking for somebody who could do a British accent
Yes,
for a play called Whose Life Is It Anyway?
that's right.
Uh, and there's your lovely brother, which I think that photo, yes, when you work together later, which we'll also come back to.
Yeah, yeah.
So he sees this advert, and I don't know what made him go, "Oh, I think you should do this," because you'd been living in Britain, because you could do a British accent.
Okay, well, I had actually talked a lot about being a movie star, but I
Right.
had done nothing about it. Excepting at university, I stumbled into a couple of stage appearances as an
Mm,
extra for the, and this is so bizarre, an extra for the Royal Scottish Ballet that
right.
they were passing through Nottingham, and
Hmm.
they were looking for extras for I believe Lysistrata
Yes.
and one other Jack and the Beanstalk. Jack and the
Right.
Beanstalk and Lysistrata. I'll never forget it. And I was an extra in both those productions, and I really enjoyed appearing at not the Royal, whatever the Royal Theatre is called in Nottingham, but it was the Theatre
Hmm.
Royal, the Nottingham Theatre Royal.
Great theatre.
Yes, so I back in Canada now, having to make a new life in a new country,
Hmm.
and being an immigrant in Ottawa, I wasn't allowed to seek permanent employment until I became a citizen. So I
Right.
did a succession of temporary jobs, which were all civil service jobs and
Hmm.
boring and called for herringbone or tweed. And
Yes.
that ain't me.
Not you. No. No,
So
siree.
my brother was going away on a trip somewhere, and he saw this ad in the newspaper, and he said, "When I get back, I want to hear that you went out for that part."
Yeah.
Well, I was able to tell him I did go out for the part, and I got the part.
Right.
Uh, Listen, if you know whose
Now,
life is
I
it,
was gonna say, I'm just gonna interject here to
yeah,
explain to anyone who has seen the show and then eventually the movie, this is
yes,
not a comedy. This is a
that's
really,
right.
I mean, it was made famous by Richard Dreyfuss, and then more recently Kim Cattrall did a version, I think, here in the UK. And
Yeah,
it's about somebody who's a quadriplegic, I think.
correct.
Yeah. And it's sort of them fighting for their life. And there's this
Yes,
wonderful part of a glib orderly who's
yes,
funny and is the only kind of light relief in the show, which of course was you.
that's right. And so every time I opened my mouth, I got uproarious laughter as the tension gets broken and the light
Yes.
relief sets with the audience,
Mhm.
and I just loved it. I mean, who doesn't? That kind of
Yeah.
response, it was a natural thing. So I was instantly hooked, and wanted to become an actor. Of
Hmm.
course, it's not that easy. You know the joke. So you're an actor. What restaurant do you work in?
Yeah.
That was my early experience in acting. But I was also modeling at the time, because I don't know
Hmm.
if you've noticed, but I was born with a
Because you're
rather
purdy.
a purdy face. And
Purdy. Be purdy.
modesty aside, that got me in the door, because
Yeah.
I modeled, and then I started doing some commercials,
Yeah.
and the commercials got me into the Actors Union. At which point I said, I better take some classes.
Hmm.
So I took some classes, and got my very first speaking role, playing a young Harry Belafonte in a
Perfect.
in a two-part miniseries called Hoover versus the Kennedys: The Second
That's
Civil
right.
War. If there's a trivia king out there, I've never actually seen this thing, or I don't
Right.
think I have in years. So if I can find that somehow, maybe I can, maybe
You know
it'll
what
go
to
on my
do,
reel.
everyone. Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's funny because you say that you, I mean, and of course you worked in restaurants and you have to pay your dues, but sort of
Hmm.
looking at your resume, like you pretty much have worked consistently since the beginning and on some seminal shows like 21 Jump Street and a certain MacGyver with someone who would eventually be part of your
Hmm.
life, but we'll get to that a little bit later. I wanted to chat about your first big break, which came when you landed the recurring role of Pin in Neon Rider, which I think ran for 5 seasons. Um,
Actually, you know what? It ran for five. It ran for 5 years.
right.
We shot 60 episodes was the threshold for syndication. We got
Hmm.
canceled twice. So we had to,
Really?
yes, we
Wow.
had to fight our way back twice, not once, but twice. And
Yeah.
but we limped to the finish and made the 60 episodes, and it was a great baptism of fire
Yeah.
because it taught you that the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. You know, it was I'll never forget that show. It will always have it will always be one of those cornerstones of my career.
Mm. And also,
I
I think, was it Winston Record who changed the role from a Latino to making him Jamaican because they allowed you to be a version of you,
The late
which
Winston
was.
Record. I owe that man. I got to tell you, I owe him in more than one sense.
Mhm.
God rest his soul. He uh, he auditioned me for that part, and during the audition, he would later tell me during the audition is when he had the idea to change the role from the way it was scripted for a Latino to a Jamaican,
Right.
and would I please use my accent for the part?
Amazing.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was so happy to hear that. And if your ear is tuned, you might hear that the accent is slowly ratcheting up as we speak. The more
I love it.
comfortable I get, the more the accent comes out.
I love it. My best thing is when you've had a few beers and then out it comes.
Exactly. Oh,
I
which you've
love
also
it.
been witness to.
A few times.
Yeah,
So,
man. It was, but at the time, Suan, it was the only, and I will tell you that right now, unashamedly, it was the only authentic Jamaican accent on the silver screen. And
yeah.
it was not, it stood out amongst a sea of Americans going, "Hey, man,"
Yeah.
you know,
Oh, please
which
don't
just
talk to me about
pisses me
bad
off.
accents. Yeah, me
Yes,
too.
exactly.
I mean,
Jamaicans will know. There's a lot of different kinds of Jamaican accents.
mhm.
You have your Rasta man, and you have your country man, and you have your patois talk, bad talking, and you have your educated Jamaican accent, which mine is
Yeah,
somewhat so. Mine can go anywhere.
exactly.
Mine can go anywhere, but I am a middle class, educated, hill dwelling Jamaican who speaks with a mid Atlantic accent. That's how I summarize it.
Yeah. But that's so fantastic because it makes you versatile. You have that, ace up your sleeve, which is a wonderful thing to
Yeah,
have.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
so in 1995, your brother Stephen
Right.
writes and directs you in a feature film called Soul Survivor,
Hmm.
which garnered you a Genie Award nomination for Best Actor. Uh,
Yes, yes, yes.
how did this project come about? Did you guys always want to work together? Did he write it specifically for you?
Suhan, there's always a segue to these things. I did not appear in the final episode of Neon Rider
Right.
because it overlapped with the shooting of this movie that my brother had written. So I would always regret not being in that final episode of Neon Rider.
Hmm.
But I was moving on to the big screen.
Yeah.
And the character of Tyrone was written loosely around the experiences that Stephen and I had had in life in a new country at that time.
Hmm. Right.
I will tell you, my brother auditioned a lot of people for the part and made me read no less than 5 times for that part. He was determined to get the best out of me, and I think he did for the stage of my career that this movie came at. We made the cover of all the trades. I had my first screen kiss. I got a nomination for Best Actor in a Leading Role that year in the Canadian Genie Awards, which is like the Canadian Oscars.
Yeah.
And I rode the coattails of this movie for a couple of years easily, because that nomination on my resume was a sort of entree into almost any audition at the time. So that is a really good foundation to have.
Yeah.
Neon Rider, 21 Jump Street, and this Soul Survivor.
Exactly. And the thing is, had you not done Soul Survivor and had you done the last episode of Neon Rider, you wouldn't have been able to do that. So sometimes things work out for the best.
That's right. And I did movie after movie after that. The very next movie I did was a movie called Jungle Ground.
Yes.
Jungle Ground starred a wrestler by the name of Rowdy Roddy Piper, a Canadian wrestler, another dearly departed.
Right.
This man was a bit of a wrestling icon, and I didn't know wrestling from Tiddlywinks. But I, on that show, met J.R. Bourne.
Yeah.
Anne-Marie DeLuise, who's married to Peter DeLuise.
Yeah.
Michael Shanks' wife, what's her name again?
Lexa
Doig.
Yeah. And Terrell, I think. Wasn't Terrell in that as well?
No, not Terrell.
Okay.
What's her name? I love this woman dearly now. I can't remember her name. Come on.
It'll come back to you.
Fandom loves her too. She played Dr. Something on Atlantis.
Oh, Tori Higginson.
Tori Higginson. Yes, man. Tori.
Look at me knowing all the
Yes. But
I've had to do a lot of work in the last
all those Stargate alumni I met on that show.
So that was about 2 years before. And then 2 years later, you audition for a brand new sci-fi series and you go off to audition for the role of Teal'c.
Yeah.
What do you remember about that audition?
Well, I didn't know what a Teal'c was. And being a bit of a grammar nerd, I thought the apostrophe was totally out of place. But I thought I did a great audition.
Yeah.
However, within a week, I was told I didn't get the part.
Right.
So I just thought, okay, what the hell? So I don't have to deal with that apostrophe for the rest of my life. This happened over Christmas and New Year's, by the way. They were casting the pilot for Stargate.
Yeah.
And I remember that because I was told right after I didn't get Teal'c, I got another call that they wanted to see me back to read for the role of Apophis. I came back and I read the role of Apophis, and I thought I aced it.
Yeah.
And Michael Greenberg was also in on that audition, and he literally mid-audition hits his forehead and goes, I don't know why I didn't think of this before. And then he just dropped it. So I knew what that meant. I thought I did. I thought I was in there. Well, 1 week turns into 2 weeks, turns into 3 weeks, turns into 4 weeks, and no sign of any casting. And this just ruined that Christmas and New Year's for me.
Yeah, I bet.
However, it turned out well in the end because I got the part.
Yeah.
And I once I realized that Apophis was sort of the TV replacement for Jay Davidson's part in the movie, I realized what Michael this meant.
Yes, because
It was
you
a
sort of bear a
recognition
resemblance.
of the familiarity of my look to the role.
Yes.
So I am grateful to Winston Reckert for Neon Rider, and I'm grateful to Michael Greenberg for Stargate, and I'm grateful to Richard Dean Anderson for his loyalty on MacGyver.
Yes. So the arch nemesis of the SG team was born.
Yeah.
And your first appearance was in Children of the Gods. And can we just talk about that entrance for a minute? Honey, I'm like, it's the equivalent of the stage version coming down a jeweled staircase. It's such a fabulous entrance. And I read somewhere that Mario Appizzardi had you study dictators as an inspiration for Apophis. Is that true?
Yes, he did. He was Mario. I'll never forget Mario.
Look at that. That's so like, I'll kill you all.
That I believe is a bit of a mock-up, though. It's one of the fans has put that together. I forget whether it's that young lady in Germany who does it, Christina or Lauren, or one of those girls that's always making memes for us, which we love, by the way. Keep them coming.
Thank you.
Yeah. But she actually made the image even stronger than it was. So I love that particular one.
Sorry.
The entrance, you mentioned the entrance. Yes. They've made it. Do you say GIF or GIF?
I say GIF, but I don't know if that's GIF right.
Too. I say GIF. But I have a little
I'm like, I'm old. I don't know.
Yeah. Same here. I say GIF. Anyway, they made a GIF of it, and I probably, pissed off a lot of people already with the amount of times I post that damn thing. And I see Drew says GIF with a J, just to say that he's on your side. But we'll take it up. We'll go later.
Maybe we say GIF because we go old, so we say it slightly differently. I don't know.
Yes. It doesn't have any apostrophes in it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's got a dot before it.
So you studied Mussolini and other dictators. Do you enjoy that part of the process as an actor? For many actors, it's all about the clothes or the shoes. I read a thing. I watched a documentary the other night about Audrey Hepburn, and she was talking about how important it is that, like, for her, it was all about the clothes. And the minute she had the costume on, and lots of theater actors talk about it being about the shoes. How do you work? Inside out? Do you not care?
All right. Well, let me tell you. I will again, king of the segue here. Mario as a party told me something during the course of Children of the Gods. You see what I'm doing with my head right here? He says, "Yes, don't do that.
Oh,
that gives up your power. Straight. Keep your head straight." And I'll never forget it. Every time I catch myself doing that in a scene, I think that requires the power. I think of Mario, and then I instantly bring my head back up.
How interesting.
That became part of Apophysis' thing. It was not difficult in that very headdress you see on the wall behind me, because that headdress opened and shut, and I had about 1.5 millimeters clearance between the tip of my nose and the shutting of that aperture.
I would have been in trouble.
Well, I tell you, if the back of my head wasn't touching the back of that helmet with my head straight, I would.
Did you have any accidents with it ever?
No accidents.
Okay. Like, I'm getting out the way.
No accidents, but a couple of near misses. Could feel the breeze.
Well, I understand.
The costumes, by the way, are just to finish, because Christina McQuarrie, yet another one of our dearly departed.
Yeah, but she was so talented.
Yeah, she was nominated for many awards for these costumes, and I felt like, as Apophis, I was the recipient of a lot of her creativity. Yeah. So I'm sure you can attest as well. So big shout out to Christina.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what was the atmosphere like on the set for you? I mean, Chris and Rick are both very keen practical jokers. Were you okay with that? Did that freak you out? How did you find all that?
I was okay with that, but to tell you the honest truth, man, I'm not going to second guess my part as the nemesis, because if you're not one of the good guys, the bad guy is the next best thing.
Yeah, exactly.
But I was not around for most of the practical jokes and the hijinks.
Right.
Excepting, I did get quite close with Christopher Judge. So his particular brand of humor, which we're all familiar with, stands out. And Richard's dry humor. He had a really dry wit that stays with you forever. Especially if you're privy to the read-throughs.
Yeah,
because
really.
A lot of those funny things that made it to screen were Richard's ad libs in the read-throughs.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And were you aware as you continued in the show that it was becoming this juggernaut of a thing? And what was that like to be part of something that's such a huge success? Or were you still all kind of like, because I remember, I mean, I was only in it much less than you, but I remember very clearly from like the first season, which I was in, to the third season, there was a real shift of energy on the set. And I don't mean like arrogance. It just suddenly it was like they were starting to find their groove because they knew the show was such a hit, if that makes sense. Whereas before everyone was a bit like, well, you never know. You go and you do your job and then you go home. You don't know what it's going to be like.
Well, after Children of the Gods, somebody at MGM messed up and sent me 3 binders full of the clippings that it generated. I had no idea why I got them, but I still have them in a trunk somewhere. They were literally that thick, and every clipping from around that was only the United States. 3 binders that thick of all the United States press.
That's
it generated a lot of press because we had it was a Showtime show and we had nudity in it.
Right.
That created much pearl clutching.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. And a lot of the press featured photographs of Apophis on the cover of TV magazines.
Yeah.
And I'm reminded of one in particular out of Chicago that had a beautiful picture of Apophis, full page, a tiny picture of Richard Dean Anderson in the bottom left-hand corner.
Right.
And the caption beside Apophis's head as Christopher Judge Christopher Judge in Stargate. So they had mistakenly labeled my face as Christopher Judge. And it's a collector's item, that thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I was aware of the gathering momentum of Stargate. Yeah. And then I became increasingly aware that I was only being used for, cliffhangers, ratings week, double episodes, that sort of thing. So of the 24 episodes we'd shoot each season, I might have been in 5.
Right. But, lasting legacy, right?
Well, there it is on the wall behind me.
Yeah, really. Do you have any favorite moments from that time or episodes? I know you've always said Serpent Song is one of your favorite episodes.
Well, of course, Children of the Gods is one of my favorite episodes.
Yeah.
It was shot as a standalone movie too. So if somebody doesn't want to go down the rabbit hole of Stargate with me, or the wormhole, then they can just watch that and get the sense of what I did for those years of my life. But when time came for me to get my own episode, Serpent Song was the one, and it stands out because I was able to interact with characters that I didn't normally get to interact with. with Amanda's
Hmm.
character and with Terrell's character and with, General Hammond. I never got to interact with them during my regular appearances at Stargate because I was always
Yeah.
on another world somewhere
Right.
or on my ship or
Yeah.
battling Meccano-looking replicators.
Yeah.
So
So
that one
yeah,
stands out for that reason.
right. And also it was quite nice because you were coming in and out during that time because you were very busy during that time. You also had a series regular role on another kind of definitive, groundbreaking Canadian series, which was Da Vinci's Inquest.
Yes,
Um,
yes,
so
that's right.
you were obviously bouncing between the two. Now, in that, you played an assistant coroner, right? Did
I
you have to
did.
do any kind of grotesque research? I mean, I say grotesque because for me, staring at a dead body and touching it would not be my idea of fun.
All right, all right. Okay. I'm going to deep back again to do the segue thing.
Yeah.
When I finished Soul Survivor, by the way, when I finished Neon Rider, I had a head full of dreadlocks
Yeah.
because Neon Rider ran for 5 years. Over those 5 years, I grew dreadlocks on TV,
Right.
which
Yeah.
is a feather in my cap because I really was proud of the emerging Jamaicanness of my character.
Yeah.
And the dreadlocks assisted with that. When I got Stargate, I thought, okay, Jay Davidson had long hair in Stargate, so maybe I'll
Hmm.
get to wear my dreadlocks as
Yeah.
the bad guy in Stargate. But no,
Yeah.
bald. I went bald for that. I
Right.
had to fit under that skull cap.
Yeah.
So that was my baldness. When I got Da Vinci's Inquest, my hair was very short.
Yeah.
So it could fit under the skull cap with a little bit of trimming around the edges, and I could also play Morris Winston on Da Vinci's Inquest.
Ah,
So
fantastic.
yeah, it was great. I missed my dreads, but
Yeah.
I was happy for the versatility that the short hair brought me. Well,
Exactly. And sorry.
yeah, what was your question?
No, I was just going to say, and what was wonderful is that you were able to bounce between these two shows, very different shows, different environments. And as I said,
Right.
you came back for Continuum, which was amazing. I think I'm the
Yes.
only one who was not invited back, but hey ho, no hard feelings.
Well, that's okay because
Um,
I came back for about, I think my screen time on that one was about 74 seconds before my head was chopped off by our dearly departed friend Cliff Simon,
yes.
which he never let me forget.
No, I have very fond memories of you at conventions, the two of you talking about that.
sharing the banter, sharing the banter.
Exactly.
Well, of
You
course,
also,
now because he is no longer with us, it is something that I talk about fondly now. But before,
yeah,
it used to bug me.
yeah. I was like,
Yeah.
and I was going to say, you have the ultimate kind of nod to your character in that two astronomers who are huge sci-fi and Stargate particularly fans have named an actual asteroid after you, haven't they?
Yeah, man.
Did they get in
Yeah.
touch with you about that?
They did not. They did not. In fact, thank you, fans, because it's you fans who pointed that out to me in the first place. That is
Yeah.
where I first heard about it, and you're probably sick and tired of me mentioning that bloody asteroid now, but they named it after my character precisely because I keep going away and coming back. That was their reasoning.
Yeah.
They are Stargate fans, and because Apophis, you think he's gone, but oh, there he comes, and he could impact Earth in some devastating way. So that's why this asteroid was named Apophis,
Yeah.
because they were Stargate fans.
Oh,
No, they never
amazing.
contacted me, but I did hear from an astronomer from Romania.
Hmm.
He had a delightfully graphic astronomer's name, which eludes me at this moment. But he contacted me from Romania with trying to involve me in a crowdfunding scheme
Right.
to sell to NASA
Mm-hmm.
a solution to divert the asteroid away from Earth.
Right.
His theory was if they sent up a spacecraft, which in essence would be a giant space spray can, you could paint one side of the asteroid white,
Right.
thereby changing how it receives heat,
Yeah.
thereby altering the flight of
Mm-hmm.
the asteroid and diverting it away from the orbit
Ah.
that it's currently on. And
Right.
I found that intriguing. We set up the
Yeah.
crowdfunding. I think we raised $85.
Obviously, no one else was as passionate about your idea.
And I never heard from the fella again. But I think he's
Oh,
still
that's
out
funny.
there. And if anyone knows who he is, please get in contact. I have fans they're fans in Romania, by the way. Shout out to Gabby.
Yeah, we love Romania.
Yeah.
Yeah, I spent a good 2.5 months in Romania filming a couple of years ago, and I loved it. Really loved it.
Well, I'm intrigued by the place. I was an Elena
Oh, it's
Stasi fan.
fantastic. Yeah. Oh, to travel again one day soon.
Speaking of travel, Suanne, we have a couple of birthdays that we have to shout out.
Oh, yes.
Because
Okay.
when you announced this show,
Yes.
there were two fans threw up messages on Twitter saying it was their birthdays. You've got Delphine in France and Teresa in Portugal. So
Bon anniversaire, Delphine. Delphine is talented and has made me many things. I'm going to show you this fantastic card. She's an artist.
Oh, is she?
Look at that.
That's who it is. Yes, I think I recognize the work.
There.
Yes. And Teresa, and there's Teresa in Portugal.
Well, happy birthday to you both.
Yes, happy birthday.
And well done, Peter, for pointing that out. So I know that you have done tons of work. And as I said, with these interviews, it's always so difficult because one wants to spend hours going, oh, tell us about this, tell us about that. But time is marching on. So I know that you have said in the past, before Stargate, you weren't a massive sci-fi fan. And yet your sci-fi credits are quite impressive, having made appearance on The X-Files, Outer Limits, Welcome to Paradox, Viper, The Twilight Zone, The Collector, Relic Hunter, Fallen, both the film and the series, Dead Like Me, and The Expanse, to name but a few. Lovely viewers.
One of the pitfalls to getting to being named Peter Williams is that your resume online sometimes merges with another Peter Williams.
I see.
Apparently, you didn't come across the little-known fact that I was in the bridge on the River Kwai.
It wasn't. No, when I looked, it wasn't online.
Shot in 1957.
Yes, you were 2, and it was remarkable.
I wasn't. I was actually born on the last day of that year, so
funny.
It was shot before I was born. Well, you mentioned another one in there, Fallen. I was not in a movie called Fallen. I was only in a TV show called Fallen. So somehow that got there. But yes, you're right. I've done a few sci-fi things. No. It's not your bad. I blame the other Peter Williams. I blame my parents for naming me Peter Williams.
You need a funky spelling like Peter, Pyteeres.
I know.
The S is silent.
I spent the first 15 years of my life wishing my parents had called me Jermaine after Jermaine Jackson.
Thankfully, I think I prefer Peter.
Nowadays I do too.
Yeah.
and I still have my real hair. I don't think Jermaine's is real.
My lips are sealed.
Yes, the sci-fi credentials. You know, when you list them all like that, I sit up and take notice. A couple
Yeah.
of them sound a lot grander than they are. For instance, the X-Files one, I was dead before the first ads, but wow, what a death!
Yeah. And you were in
Yeah,
it. You know, it doesn't matter if you're in it for 5 seconds. If you don't end up on the cutting room floor, you've done it, as far as I'm concerned, anyway. Which brings me very neatly to I'm slightly obsessed with this
yeah.
because you got to work with my idol, who I was all set to see last year in April. She was finally doing a talk about her career. And I booked in, and then, of course, COVID happened and the world changed forever. But tell me what it was like working with the incomparable Judi Dench on the Chronicles of Riddick.
Ah, yes, yes, yes. Chronicles of Riddick, boy, my goodness, a lot of Stargate alumni in that one too.
Yeah,
Hmm.
right.
Judi Dench and I actually spoke. So it wasn't just a question of working with her, though we didn't appear in any scenes together, but our
Right.
paths crossed in the makeup trailer.
Oh, how fabulous.
Here is
How
my
fabulous.
experience with Judy. I expected a stuffy,
Oh,
off
no.
putting, kind of untouchable.
Yeah,
Could not have been further from the truth.
yeah,
Now, you know me, and we started off this thing talking about music. When I am in the makeup trailer, Bob Marley is on the speakers. Do you
right.
understand? Usually, you work with me, you just accept that.
I know. I've traveled with
Not,
you, but I love it.
not, not when Judy Dench is in the other chair.
I love that.
When Judy Dench is in the other chair, she's the DJ, and you're more likely to hear Rachmaninoff,
Uh,
Beethoven, Bach, or some other classic.
Fabulous. That is fabulous.
And you don't argue.
Yeah,
So I was listening to her classical music and racking my brain for something that I could say that would allow her to maybe remember me if we ever ran into each other down the road.
yeah.
And I racked my brain and I came up with the fact that I went many years ago to a British boarding school.
Ah, yes.
And I was able to drop the name of that school. It was Stowe in Buckinghamshire. And
Right.
that made Judi Dench do a double take.
I bet.
It
That's
made her do a double
so
take.
fantastic.
I achieved my aim and I was able to discuss with her events surrounding how that came to be. And the
Yeah,
fact that Stowe is actually a movie set of some renown in the UK.
right.
And David Niven went there, as I mentioned
Hmm.
earlier. So I had these little bon mots
Yeah.
to drop, and I dare say if I run into her again, I will remind her whether she remembers or not.
And I'm going to be with you. I'll just
Yeah,
be like, I met you too, Judy. I was in the
yeah,
trailer
yeah,
as well. But I wanted to just quickly chat because we've got some fantastic photos of you during Riddick. And for any budding actors out there, what I wanted to say is when I went through, I sort of looked, my husband is obsessed with films like this. So I watched it mainly for Judy initially, but of course then rewatched it for you. Um, and what's so interesting is that even though you're simply credited as convict, there is
yes,
so much subtext with your character. You are utterly brimming with life. For as I said, for all the look at that. There's a fantastic scene. I think I said this to you yesterday when we were doing the rehearsal or the tech check. It wasn't really a rehearsal. There's a moment where you cross somebody and you just look at them, and there's so much in that look that we can tell your whole history. So it shows you, like, really, there are no small parts.
hey,
But
listen, this is another story I have to tell you.
yes, I want to know about the backstory. That's
The
what I was going to say. But you
backstory,
love,
yes, let me
you,
tell you. All
yeah,
right, I am simply credited in the credits as convict number 2.
right,
Now there were convicts number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 in that show, in those credits.
Yeah.
And many Vancouver-based actors auditioned for these convicts, and we were assigned our number by the director.
Right.
I was convict number 2. We were all summoned by the director, David Toohey,
yeah,
to a meeting. And he said, now, you have all been given convict numbers, but here is your homework. I want you all to have a reason for why you are in this prison with Vin Diesel's character.
Yeah.
And we will have another meeting and you're going to tell me why.
Yeah.
So he sent us away. We did our homework and we came back and we presented our backstories to him.
Yeah.
Riddick was shot during the now infamous Washington sniper incident.
Yes.
Where this man, whose name is Williams, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
An ex-veteran of the American Army, drills a hole through the back of his Chevy and drives around Washington with a gun sticking out of it, popping off people.
Yeah.
With the assistance of a 19-year-old sidekick.
That's right. I remember that. It was 2002, I think, right?
2002, I believe.
Yeah.
That sidekick was a Jamaican. I decided to embody what hell that young man must have been through to drive him to do that.
Right.
With this man who controlled his brain.
Yeah.
So I called my character Sniper.
Great.
And embodied his soul with the soul of that young Jamaican who rots in jail as we speak. And who also, as it happens, lived in Antigua for a while, and where I also lived.
Right.
The best thing about that, though, is if you watch the director's cut of Chronicles of Riddick, David Toohey name checks my character as Sniper and talks about my performance, which I am very proud of.
Well, I'm not surprised because they're honestly like you can't, like, you were riveting, and it just shows you that you can actually say so much without dialogue, without minimal dialogue. You don't have to have the big speeches. And I think very often as actors, maybe it's just me, I'm always like, oh my God, I've only got 3 lines, but actually you don't need the big speeches always. Sometimes it's nice, but you don't need it.
And it helps sometimes if the audience can catch a glimpse of your face. Yeah. Sneaking out from behind Vin Diesel's bicep.
Exactly. There it is. Look at you sneaking out.
Your producer Drew likes my cues.
Oh, that's so brilliant. Well, I wanted to take some time to single out a more recent but equally outstanding performance, and on some of your more recent projects. And one of them is the award-winning A Winter Tale, which I just thought you were absolutely gobsmackingly brilliant. And it was a different role for you in the sense that you played quite a lot of strong, dominant men. And Jean Wright has a different strength. It's a thoughtful, quiet, inner strength. And for those who haven't seen it, I really urge everybody to try and watch it.
Suanne, I'm touched. You watched it?
No, I mean it. Yeah.
Yeah. How did you get hold of that one?
I'll tell you later. All right.
I am so glad you watched that. All right.
So I want to know how the wonderful Frances Anne Solomon came into your life and into your orbit, and how this role came to you.
Oh, my goodness. Frances Anne Solomon has become a little bit of a Svengali for me.
Amazing. Well, she's doing something right.
She definitely is. She's man, I think we're going to have to double the length of this show because we're just now into my modern career. After Stargate and after a few years on the circuit, meeting all the lovely fans out there, my life changed a little bit. I went through a divorce, a personal divorce. I got myself a new family. I spent some time gathering my thoughts back in the Caribbean, feeding my Caribbean soul and my natural nature. And this coincided with greater involvement in community cinema. And I say that not to diminish it, I say that to aggrandize it. It's the honest Peter Williams in his own milieu.
Yeah.
A Winter Tale was instrumental in kicking that whole process off. I've always had characters that have been true to my Jamaicanness, but this one was almost me playing me.
Yeah,
which sometimes is the best. My character was the central character in A Winter Tale, but I hesitate to call him the lead. It was an ensemble cast, and everybody was fantastic in it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And memorable. And you know what's funny? I just lent my copy of the video to someone that works in my local supermarket.
Oh, wow.
Yes, who came to me saying, where can I find this movie? Where can I find this movie? I can't find it anywhere. Do you have a copy? And I said, sure. Lent it to her. And now it's doing the rounds in the fish department. It's like, no, I kid you not. Anyway, Winter Tale, Frances Ann Solomon, her cousin was my acting teacher in Vancouver.
Ah, okay.
Michelle
so
Lonsdale
is that how
Smith.
you?
Yes,
is that
that's
how you
how
kind
we
of
met.
discovered each other?
I got a call from her, Michelle, my acting teacher, Frances Ann's cousin, and I'll never forget what she said. She goes, Peter, how come nobody's writing stuff for you? And I went, I'll be right there.
Yeah.
She called me in for a meeting and she told me about this project that she and her cousin had written with me in mind.
Yeah. Amazing.
It was being shot in Toronto, and it took me away from my family for more than a month. But it was well worth it, and well worth it.
Yeah.
The show had legs. It's been on television a few times now. For those that don't know, the premise is somebody gets shot in a drive-by shooting, and my character convenes a black men's group to talk about feelings.
Yeah.
Wow, that never happens in real life. So it was a beautiful piece. Male-centric. Very few women in that film, but sometimes the men are the ones who need the talking to, and my character did the talking. I played a social worker, and we had our support groups during which we aired all our feelings. Now, we didn't have solutions. And every time there's a drive-by shooting in Toronto, this film gets a rebirth.
Yeah, exactly. It's still dealing with things that are very prevalent and relevant today.
Very prevalent now,
right now, I know that you guys workshopped a lot of it and improvised, I think, some of the dialogue. I know you were also credited as additional dialogue.
Yes.
Was that a fun thing for you to do, that kind of ensemble way of working, like a play?
I thought at the time that I would never have a more fulfilling experience.
Right.
But I was wrong. I happened to work with her again on another movie.
Yes, which is the next thing I want to talk about.
Yes. But I will tell you, yes, that way of working she has this way of working. She brings you in, sits you down, gives you the outline of a scene, and says, ad lib it. She
Yeah.
films the ad libs and then pieces together the dialogue out of what you have come up with. This is
Great.
after
Wow.
having done exercises like like talking about your day,
Yeah.
um, like researching the history of the time,
Hmm.
creating your family, um, and then sharing it with the other characters so that you know each other before you do the ad libs. Then,
Yeah.
when she presents you with the script, actually, Winter Tale, we actually even did it as a play. We did it as a
Oh, wow.
stage play. So when the time came to shoot the movie, we did not even need our scripts.
Yeah, exactly. You were
Yeah.
so kind of settled into it.
Yeah, and that's the kind of vibe you get from her you get a verite vibe from her projects.
Yeah, exactly. So, speaking of the next project, which I
Hmm.
know, I think was probably the last time we actually saw each other face to face,
Yes.
was when you were working on Hero,
Hmm.
which is all about the extraordinary life of Ulrich Cross. For anyone who's not familiar with Ulrich Cross, can you give us a kind of very brief, because it's a lot there, but just a kind of brief summary on who he was?
The briefest summary of the late Ulrich Cross is that he was a Trinidadian who went to fight in the Second World War on behalf of Great Britain, as many Caribbean men did.
Yeah, he was in the RAF, wasn't
He
he?
was
Oh
in
no,
the
he wasn't a.
RAF. He
Yeah,
was a navigator and a pilot,
yeah,
and he flew little wooden planes called mosquitoes
that's right.
over Germany. Their tasks were to fly ahead of the bombing runs, drop flares on the target, and they were followed by the Spitfires, flown by the white pilots
Yeah,
to drop the bomb on the target. Now, it was a matter of seconds between the dropping of the flare and the bombing run of the Spitfire. So you
hmm,
had to be a very nimble pilot to do that job. Ulrich was one such.
yeah,
At the end of the war, a lot of these Caribbean men stayed in Britain
yeah.
and entered, professions on the back of having been ex-RAF. I
Hmm.
guess that would have been an entree into some professions. Ulrich, in particular, became a lawyer
Yeah,
and was deployed by the British government to assist in setting up jurisprudence systems in emerging nations in the now devolving empire in
right.
Africa. So Ulrich was in Cameroon, he was in Ghana, he was in Tanzania, and he is quite revered in some of these territories.
Mm.
This movie is about the extraordinary life and times of Ulrich Cross.
Yeah. It's
I don't play Ulrich, but I play an adjunct character to him,
yes.
who also played in the RAF, who also was ex RAF. Ulrich is a real character. My character was fictitious, so we're talking about a docudrama of sorts, which toured.
Hmm.
It actually showed in South Africa.
Oh, did it?
Yes, and
Ah,
it won an African Academy Award in Nigeria.
excellent. Well, not surprised.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen snippets of it. I haven't seen the whole thing
Yes, COVID
because I couldn't find
interrupted
it.
the tour. COVID
Yeah,
interrupted the tour. We also, I happen to know, had a splashy screening at the Lincoln Center. And
yeah,
at this minute, I have to shout out my homegirls who I grew up with in Jamaica,
yeah.
who are sisters, the Silvera sisters, who made the pilgrimage to Lincoln Center in New York City to support me And I
Oh,
know they're watching right now. So big up,
oh,
gals. Love you.
yay. Big up
Love
to
you.
my
Love you.
gals.
Yeah.
Well, just before we hand over to
Sure.
questions, because we have yapped away, as is my style, I think.
And mine.
Oh, and it's been a joy. Um, I so have enjoyed your wonderful blog, and I know that you haven't written recently. It's something that sort of moves you, but
Yeah.
there is definitely. I mean, you are a man of many talents and skills. You can do drama, comedy. You know, you've done wonderful animated work in the Hurricanes, and great comedy work on television and films, and moving, gripping performances, baddies.
Yeah.
Writing is definitely something you also have a skill and a gift for, I think. Can we hope for a book?
Yes, you can hope for it. In fact, there is agitation in my personal entourage to
Excellent.
produce said book, or at the very least, revive the blog.
Right.
Listen, I'm aware that blog was my first attempt at writing, and when I look back at it now, I consider it naive. However, not naive enough to just kill the link, because there's some great stuff on there.
Oh yeah.
I just need to readjust some of the sentence construction, and away I go, and maybe put it into a proper, a glossier format, or maybe even distill it and use it as the backbone to the book.
Absolutely.
Because there's a lot that you kind of rekindled my interest in the blog by your research.
Good.
I scrolled through, and I reread some things that made me go, damn, I'm good.
Yeah, there you go.
So I need to get that going again.
Well, and on that
Yeah.
note, because you are good, we are going to hand over to anyone who wants to ask a question, and I have a few here.
All right.
Some of them we have already covered during the interview, like what it was like wearing the suit as Apophis, and we know it was very heavy and you had to mind your head. Did you have a favorite moment with Rick?
Favorite moment with Rick. Why didn't I anticipate that question? My favorite moment with Rick came after Stargate.
Okay.
And I will tell you, it was in Hobbiton,
Ah, yes.
Auckland, on the North Island of New Zealand,
Yes.
on a convention visit to Matamata, the little town that Hobbiton is situated in.
Yeah.
So we're in Hobbiton, and you've got you got Bilbo Baggins's dwelling, and you've got all these things that I'm not a Tolkien fan, so I am not a Lord of the Rings guy.
Yeah.
But this place is magical.
Yes, it is.
They have rebuilt Hobbiton in Matamata, and they have maintained it as a tour. And they shot part of the movies down there, and they've maintained it as a tourist attraction.
Right.
I was standing in what was a garden for one of the hobbits.
Hobbit says,
Yes,
yeah.
there were strawberries growing in this garden, like real strawberries,
Mhm.
and they were ripening. So I said to myself, all right, I'm going to pick myself a couple of strawberries. And I did.
Yeah.
And then I became aware of somebody standing over my shoulder. And I got a guilty feeling that I was disturbing and picking strawberries when I shouldn't have been.
Right.
And this guy was also eyeing the strawberries. And I turned around and I sort of sheepishly said, yeah, that one was really sweet, and I just made small talk. It wasn't until the small talk was a good 5 minutes deep that I
Yeah.
realized I was talking to Richard Dean Anderson.
Oh, that's so great.
He looks a bit different now.
Yeah. Well,
And
we
he
all look a bit
snuck up on
different.
me. He snuck up on me, and he was behind my line of vision.
Right.
That was my favorite moment.
I love it.
We talked about our mothers
Yeah.
at that moment. His mother and my mother have health issues in common.
Right. Okay.
and we bonded over that,
Yeah.
and it was a beautiful moment, really. No,
Oh,
no, no awkwardness.
right. Perfect.
Mothers and dogs.
Yes. You love your dog. We haven't seen Maya this evening,
Maya.
or afternoon. In the meanwhile, I wanted to ask you, somebody sent me this saying, one thing that first drew me to Stargate was the connection to ancient history. One of the most memorable scenes of the show for me was in the episode Serpent's Song when Apophis is dying in the SGC and the host, who we learn is an ancient Egyptian, can speak freely. I thought it was a really clever choice to have the host speak in his native language. Although Dr. Fraser was doing her best to help him physically, it is Daniel who could provide the emotional comfort that he needed because he knew the man's language and culture. So I want to give Peter applause for an amazing performance and would love to hear his memories of this one. In particular, did they speak real Egyptian or some other language? Now, we know only one of you spoke real Egyptian, right?
Yes. Well, this is a question I do get from time to time, so I've had a chance to air it out. There is documentation of the backstory there. There's a Department of Egyptology at the University of British Columbia, and one of the professors was tasked with adjusting the script for veracity. But scripts go through rewrites all the time.
Yeah.
Unbeknownst to me, Michael Shanks got the rewrite and I did not. So mine was gibberish and his was real, or vice versa. I cannot remember. But yes, the attempt was made to make it real ancient Egyptian. An actual language.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
That is brilliant. If anyone has a question on the live, yes, there we go. I've got a question for both of you. What do you like about meeting fans? Ellie from Czechoslovakia. Well, Peter, you go first. And there's Maya. Hello, Maya. Hello.
She's a little shy and a little wet. I live next to a river and she had her very first swim of the year today.
Right.
So she's damp and she smells like a soggy dog.
But Ellie, what do we like? I like meeting fans just to get to know. I mean, I'm so kind of blown away that people still remember the character that I played and that Hathor has had such a profound is a bit grand, such a lasting impact. And that makes me very grateful because as an actor, you never really know, sometimes you think you're going to have a great success with a job and then it just, the whole thing goes tits up, as we say in the UK.
Yes.
And so it's such a joy.
Like that. Yeah. I'm pretty much like that too. It's just incredible how the fandom has kept us all even thinking about this job that is now well over a decade and a half old.
Yeah.
And I enjoy visiting the territories. I'll kid you not. Those trips are worth their weight in gold. I can't tell you how happy I am to recount that I've been to New Zealand twice and Australia 3 times and France innumerable times and Germany and the UK. Getting me back to the UK is a big deal for me.
Yeah, exactly.
One year I went to 13 American cities.
Wow.
I really enjoy that aspect of it and being able to put faces to names. Some of you have become genuine friends and recognizable on my timelines. Hi, Claire. Hi, Lynn in Vancouver. I see you.
Yeah, exactly.
And,
yeah, we're very lucky.
Very lucky.
I'm only going to do 2 more questions because I feel like we have been here for a really long time. But this question has come up from emails as well.
One second. Still hoping to get to Czechoslovakia. David Nickel,
oh, me too.
Who is one of your ensuing guests, has promised to get me to Prague.
I am meant to be doing Comic-Con. Obviously, it was rescheduled because it was meant to be in May.
Yeah.
So we are fingers crossed that we'll be able to do it this year, because I'm coming to Comic-Con Prague and I'm so excited.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, not at all. So that question was, did you keep some props from Stargate?
No, I never kept any props. I'm sorry, that's a boring answer, but I have been collecting memorabilia, as evidenced by my backdrop from my friends at Montpellier, in Montpellier, France, who gave me that backdrop. I have a poster over there, another one on the wall on the far side of my basement. I have collected a lot of memorabilia that way, but no, nothing directly from the set, barring scripts.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think
actually,
also they
no,
were
one
quite
thing.
sort of.
Yeah.
Sorry. No, go ahead.
I have a mock-up somewhere of a weapon, some kind of weapon that somehow wound up amongst my papers from a read-through, but apparently, it's worth something one day.
Yeah.
I'll scan it one day and air it.
So somebody there just said, would you like to go to Nottingham? I think that was. Oh, have you gone back to Nottingham? I would imagine yes.
No, I haven't, but this is a perfect time to shout out to Will from Kalmar, who hopefully will be our next host at a convention, but we'll see about that because of the COVID situation. But he is he's the last one who pulled us all together.
Yeah.
So and he stands to be the next one that gets us together again. Will promised to not only get me back to Nottingham, but to get me a Nottingham Forest shirt, because I'm a Forest fan to this day. Shout out to Will. Hi, Will. You're probably
Will
watching.
And David.
Will and David. Yes.
Yeah. So this seems like a very fitting question then to end on, and that is, someone was saying you have the asteroid named after you. He was wondering if you had the opportunity to name an asteroid after a character you really like, real or not, or a person who inspires you, Suanne. No, a person who inspires you. Who would that be and why? I think I know exactly who it's going to be.
Oh, well, you know what? I think there is a new asteroid in the heavens, and it's called Cliff Simon.
Oh.
That is the latest asteroid. He created it himself.
Absolutely.
He's there. Yeah, that's that is the answer to that particular question.
Absolutely.
Asteroid Baal.
I love that. Baal
and he probably has clones too, damn it.
Well, that is an absolute perfect note to end on.
Yeah.
Peter, thank you for your time, your wonderful career, your life. I mean, it's been fascinating. And I'm so delighted that you could join us. And thank you, as you said, for bringing up Cliff, because he has left a gaping hole in our lives.
Yep. Not to mention our photographs.
Not to mention our photographs.
Yeah.
And, I feel it's still completely surreal. And many people loved his work and his performances. But I've known him since I was 20 years old. So it still feels like a complete gaping void is the only way to say it. But
it is a void.
Yes.
It won't be filled, and I have this. You've just reminded me of the way I wanted to end it. I'm very, very proud to always reference the fact that the four of us, including Jacqueline, who gets her first mention here tonight, have our foursome is symmetrical. We were 2 South Africans and 2 Jamaicans.
Yeah.
Jacqueline Samuda, a lot of you may not know, is of Jamaican heritage.
That's right.
As am I. Cliff and Suanne were South Africans. And you may not get why I go there, but as 2 post-colonial nations with their own particular brand of identity and politics, we made for an extremely powerful foursome.
Yeah.
I'm going to include Cliff in it whenever the three
Forever.
of us get together, forever, he will be part of it.
Yeah.
The two Jamaicans and the two South Africans, we bookend this
Absolutely.
thing, and I'm really glad I remembered to get that out.
Oh, well, thank you. And Peter, thank you for joining me tonight, this afternoon for you. Thank you for giving so generously of your time. It has been a delight, and I hope that the next time we meet, it's in person so I can give you a big squeeze.
Absolutely. And for all you fans out there, by the way, we do really appreciate the Twitter followers. So if you can coax all your friends to follow us, we would really appreciate it. There's method to our madness.
Absolutely. And thank you so much once again. On that note, please join me next week when the fabulous Mike Dopid was going to be my guest. Thank you very much for giving us your time this afternoon, this evening, this morning, wherever you may be. Please spread the word about Hathor Hosts if you've enjoyed what you've seen. And I just wanted to say, Cliff, buddy, this one is for you. I love you. Goodbye, everyone. See you next week.
Thank you.